I can pull it, I can share screen and pull it
It'll
up.
be super short.
Bill was in line, so then we'll have you go after him.
Okay, so
So, yeah.
those of you who don't know me, I'm Bill Eichler. I live at 61 Tejas Lane. And the Moose Meadows open space is just below my house. And I noticed on your agenda, there's going to be an item about talking about noxious weeds, invasive weeds. Somebody was going to be doing a report on it. Anyway, I would want to bring that to your attention. Nikki already knows about it, that there are Canada thistles coming back. Most of them are around the Caribou Room, just north of there and east of there, and they're along the trails. The town mitigated that about 4 or 5 years ago, but they are coming back. And hopefully there'll be money in the budget to do some spraying. My wife and I clip the heads off of them in the fall so that they don't propagate, but that's just keeping them from spreading, and we can't do it all. There's also yellow-toed flax that's come back. It was sprayed a few years ago, and there's just a little bit of it coming back. And I understand that's even worse than Canada thistle. So I would be glad to walk that area with anybody who wants to see where it all is. And then the other thing is I saw something in the paper about a discussion about trails or something related to PROSAB on Moose Meadows. Evidently, that's not going to be something that's going to be talked about this year. So I wouldn't want to waste your time with that, but I'll volunteer again. When you do come up with that, I would be glad to help. There's some areas where the trails aren't aligned right, but it's basically all good. Then the last thing, in the discussion before the meeting, you're going to be working on wildfire mitigation in Moose Meadows, or?
We will be, hopefully, CT is gonna try and attempt to restart the Saws and Slaws program. And that would be our first area of action.
Okay, as you know, there's a lot of wind throw right in the middle where Boulder
Yep.
County did the mitigation. But there's also a lot along the road. And I would caution when that gets done, not to disturb that too much, because that's where all the wood lilies live,
Yeah.
Okay.
right along the road. And it also creates a natural barrier for people not to shortcut through that wetland area. But yeah, I would be all for removing the windrow that's below my house in that already cleared area. So. yeah.
I'm emailing you now.
Pardon?
I'm emailing you now to make sure you have my contact information.
Okay. And thank you for taking the lead on that, because it's, there's more of it every year. So that's all I have to say. And thanks for having me at your meeting. I've got to go. And thanks for being proactive on Moose Meadows too.
Thanks for
Thank you.
coming.
Okay.
Thanks for coming. It was
Thank you.
good to see you again, Jill.
Good to see you, Bill.
Am I allowed to offer, not, I guess not a response directly to him, but just like some thoughts based on what he said? Just, it might be useful for us to discuss like doing some sort of site visit, or I don't know, like where he said showing, looking at the thistle and the wind throw, especially for saws and flaws. I know we've talked a lot about that area, putting up the new sign, which CT played an integral role in, but it might be helpful for us as a board. I don't know, like we do that with Nikki or not, because I know she's gonna be super busy, but just to maybe use Bill as a Bill and CT as a resource to just get up. I don't know.
Bill is one that I'll be definitely setting up a meeting with. He's got a lot of knowledge in that area.
Yeah.
And so when I get that meeting set up, I'll invite a couple of you guys to come along with
Yeah.
me. You'd like, a couple of you passionate weed people.
Yeah, I love that area up there. I walked it a bunch last year. I'm sure CT would love to show it off too. But yeah, I'm not sure. He's not here and I don't know what the latest is. I didn't realize he was like definitely doing any saws and saws. It sounded more like a sort of an idea last meeting as opposed to like a definite thing. But have you spoken to him or?
No, he, you can touch my computer's butt. It's fine. At the last meeting, he's already gotten documents, he's gotten a lot of information from us already, and so
Okay.
I really assumed that he was gonna make this good.
Cool.
Don't know. I assumed.
Cool. And then you'll be in touch with Bill about the noxious weeds.
Absolutely.
Cause like we can't do anything with spraying, like that's all.
Yeah, no, totally. I kind of just wanted to more get a.
Town is-
for the area.
Town has no intentions or plans to spray this year.
Okay.
Boulder County, I know does, but, thank you. But they have reached out to me and asked if there were areas that we're having problems with. So
Gotcha.
that would be one that I would put on their radar.
And then, sorry, one last thing, could that be a potential, I don't know, Nikki, where you're at with weed pool days, if that area lends itself to a weed pool
So
volunteer?
the thing is with the Canada thistle, that's up there, that's so hard to pull.
Okay.
It's not a puller. It really
Not a
is.
citizen-led initiative.
That's correct.
Okay.
Toad flax, maybe we could try and tackle it. I don't remember.
It's both pretty easy.
It's good weed. I mean, it's like a good route to pull, satisfying, like.
Yeah,
sounds
it's
down.
like, yeah, I mean, I've only done it a couple of times.
Maybe the cannabis shops in town would like to volunteer some funding for the weed pool days or something.
Who, what? Okay, yeah, right. There you go. So, yes.
But yeah, I don't really know, like, generally it's been PROSAB that's organized the noxious weed pulls,
Okay.
like the last couple of years, but as I said last meeting, I can't do it this year, so I don't know if like the volunteer crew is gonna do it, or, so that would be a good thing to get on the calendar, but,
Okay,
So
yeah,
the volunteer.
yeah, we're all gonna meet and talk more about that, so if that's something we can add to our agenda.
yeah, it'd be super cool to
Okay.
even just set up a couple of days, so.
Yeah, okay, cool.
All right, Jesse, sorry, thank you for being patient.
I would just like to repeat something I've said before in this meeting, and that is to encourage you all to do some meetings in the parks. Actually embrace the good weather and get the inspiration for why we're actually meeting and talking and pondering the topics. And so, yeah, that's
Could meet at the rink because they have Wi-Fi.
Are you telling us to touch grass?
touch grass. Yes, take your shoes off and just
Maybe not grass, maybe something that belongs.
sniff the flowers. Yeah.
Pine needles.
Well, the parks up, there's a lot of diverse pieces of parcels of town property that could be considered parks, and
Yeah.
so, and, you know,
Yeah, if someone
That's
wants
all.
to, if someone has like a notion of how we can do these with like still engaging the public fully with the sort of hybrid setup, that was my biggest concern, because it was last year with doing meetings in the parks, but if there's like a place we can do this where we can have like full public participation in terms of like the WebEx stuff, then I was thinking that on the way here, actually.
And the owl travels.
The owl can travel, it's just you're gonna have to hotspot or create some sort of course, internet connection,
Yeah.
right? But
We can start for
I
that.
got
I'm
them.
hotspotting right now because there's no internet. That's
Yeah.
So there we go.
right.
Is that why I can't connect to?
Do you wanna connect to me?
It's
Oh,
a-
I got online.
See, there's something going on with our computer.
I got
that are-
online, but I also have a hotspot on my phone, unlimited.
Let's,
if anyone needs.
I don't know,
Do you,
just I'll make a
It's just
note that we
AT&T,
try for the next meeting to see if we
and-
can make that happen.
T password?
If
all
the weather looks
lowercase.
good, I'll like spearhead picking up
The symbol.
like
Yeah,
location
just
of
and-
technology.
Next
Oh,
meeting is the solstice, actually,
Oh,
so
even
On mountain.
longest day of the
Yeah.
year. I was gonna bring up, that actually can't make it, so I'll need someone to take
Okay.
over my duties, but I can, since not a lot of people are here, I'll email the group.
I'll email.
Hey, look at that.
But yeah, Sam said he could
That's the
Okay,
thing.
set up, so thank you. Appreciate
Let's,
that.
let's try, it seems like we have good luck likely next month with that, hopefully.
Awesome, love it. Thank you, Sam. Any other public comment? Anybody else? Is there someone hiding behind someone?
I'm gonna let Luke in the side.
All right, cool. Thanks, everybody. So I think we like figured out what the next steps were for all of those different things. Oh, hey, welcome.
You're in my ear holes.
Hello.
And now we're also in your eyes.
I was like, oh, where's Alex?
Yeah. And there's Luke. Oh. Oh, Jessica did stick around with that.
Because I'm right in here.
Yeah, he was just
Yeah.
letting, he was just letting, hi, Luke, nice to meet you.
Come in, come in.
So, let's see. All right, so we just went through public, we had a couple,
They might have it.
we just went through, we had a couple of bits of public comment and approved the minutes, and now we're just gonna move on to the info items, so. But let's officially welcome Luke since he was online last time, so. Glad to have you. Oh yeah, do you know everybody's like names? I didn't even think about that. Okay, cool. Well, welcome. Okay.
Ask people's names if you forget them.
Yeah.
For sure. All right, so yeah, first,
I said it was 5:30, that's not up to this.
on the days. First, informational item is from Fair and Pierce.
Fear and Pierce. So Charlie Alexander is here from Fear and Pierce to talk to you all about the multimodal plan. Many of you have participated. The town is obviously doing its first ever multimodal transportation plan. Started kind of with existing conditions, have then moved on to some recommendations. So Charlie does have a PowerPoint that he's going to share. And so everyone look at a computer near you. If you've joined, we'll all share here. And Charlie, go ahead and take it away.
Great.
Just to remind you,
Yeah.
in terms, I don't know where my phone is, so I can't really time, but you've got 30 minutes on the agenda, so 6:15.
Yep. I am planning with that time expectation in mind. So thank you, Miranda. Can someone just confirm that my audio is working and that I have screen shared effectively? Great. Thumbs up.
Yes.
Cool. Thanks, everyone. So thanks for having me on your agenda tonight. As Miranda mentioned, this is an update of draft recommendations stemming from the multimodal transportation plan. Given the time limit of 30 minutes, what I'm actually going to do is give a bit of an introduction to the project and hit on a half or dozen or so of the topics in here that I think are most relevant to PROSAB. But I'll show you sort of the whole menu of things that are available as recommendations for discussion, and we can sort of let the time in the Q&A steer how we best use the time for this group. So I expect to present for no more than 10 or 15 minutes and then leave the rest of the time for questions and discussion. So I'll go ahead and just give this project introduction first. I believe that this group has been engaged at earlier phases in the process, but the purpose of this project and the goal of the project is to develop a long-range plan for transportation that identifies projects, programs, policies to advance the town's vision for transportation. And obviously there's some relationship and overlap between transportation and recreation and open space. So we want to come to this group with particularly those elements that we think really overlap. We've been working on this project since 2023, working on developing the vision, guiding principles, as Miranda mentioned, doing a variety of analyses of existing conditions. And the point that we're at right now is developing and rolling out draft recommendations. And I want to, make really clear that the point we're at is that these recommendations are draft. They're definitely malleable at this point. Our next steps are to do, broader community outreach in the summer of this year, and we're taking these draft recommendations to different boards and commissions like yourselves, with the intention of sort of refining them and hopefully improving them before we go out to that broader public feedback process. We are aiming and expecting to have this project wrapped up this year. I won't read this word for word, but this is the vision statement that emerged from our first phases of outreach for the project. Just to hit on some words that came up as frequently desired by members of the community who've participated in our process: safety, accessibility, equity, sustainable modes, convenience, reliability, adaptation to emerging mobility. So there's obviously sort of a lot that we're trying to accomplish here, but this statement, we are trying to sort of encapsulate what that desired end state is for transportation in Nederland. The guiding principles here tell us a little bit more, rather than that end state, but a little bit more about how we want to go achieving that end state with transportation options, ones that focus on sustainability, improving regional transit options, accommodating new and emerging mobility technologies, making sure that projects result in reliability and safety, equity, and particularly with a focus on making sure that our transportation system serves people of all ages and all abilities, and then safety for all modes, looking through the lenses of not just infrastructure, but programs and policies as well. So from a recommendation standpoint, this is sort of the menu that can guide us in the 30 minutes that we've got available today. So the categories that we've worked on, and just to give a quick synopsis of these, all of these categories and topics are things that came up through existing conditions analysis, that came up through outreach, where we've done some further refinement and analysis to develop recommendations to roll out for you and for members of the community at large. So the first category, and I will say that of the ones on the sheet, the ones that I put in bold are the ones that I am thinking are probably most likely relevant for PROSAB. So those are the ones that I'll go into more detail on, but I can certainly come back with more in Q&A. I do need to let my dog upstairs because she's getting really annoying right now. So give me just a second. I'll do that and I'll be back. Sorry.
Good.
We understand.
It's all been there.
Yeah, what is traffic calming?
Breathe.
So they yell at Nick and team and they're. Yeah. Scott's in just 10 minutes.
I know.
Okay, I'm very sorry. Everyone's sort of getting home at the end of the day here, so lots of excitement. Okay, so just to speak to these briefly, the roadway recommendations category includes improvements to the roundabout, intersection improvements at 2 locations, which are Bridge and Lakeview, and then Highway 72 and Eldora Road, and then the pedestrian crossing at the Visitor Center, as well as ideas of narrowing down options for a second bridge crossing across the creek. Parking recommendations generally address parking primarily in the downtown and the blocks immediately surrounding it, in terms of how that parking would be regulated and managed to better spread out utilization in town. I think a lot of the focus today will be on the bicycle and pedestrian facility recommendations, which includes actual bicycle and pedestrian facilities themselves, things like trails, things like sidewalks, as well as traffic calming. Traffic calming is engineering jargon for different things that we can do with streets to slow the speed of traffic moving on those streets to make them safer and more comfortable for people walking and biking. Transit improvements describes different local and regional strategies for increasing transit options in Nederland. And then the program and policy recommendations speak to different non-infrastructure actions that the town can make to ensure sort of the level of maintenance and usefulness of the system over time. So I'll hit on these ones in bold, but then at Q&A, I will come back to this. And if we want to address topics that I'm not going into in detail, we can certainly do that. But that way I can make sure that we're hitting on the content most relevant to the group here. So I'll start just in order here with the second bridge. So obviously this has been a long-standing matter or priority for the town in a lot of ways to increase the resiliency and the ability for people to move from south of the creek to north of the creek and vice versa over time and as conditions change. So there's been previous work for these different ideas of where bridges can potentially go. And what we've really tried to do is at least narrow down a little bit what we think the really viable options are and the ones that are going to be most beneficial There's a lot of different considerations that likely go into making a decision about where a bridge would go. The actual engineering feasibility is part of that. Cost is sort of related to feasibility. Different things like right of way or different properties or adjacent resources that are impacted by one location or another are certainly a consideration as well. And then there's different sorts of sort of permitting or interagency cooperation or environmental constraints that we want to be mindful of as well. So for the time being, the multimodal plan recommends proceeding with locations 1 and 2. So just to make that clear, location 1 here is sort of opposite of Conger Street, closest to the existing bridge across the creek. And then location number 2 ties in at East Street at Chipeta Park. So I'll talk a little bit more about those and some thoughts that we've got. But the other locations, location 3 down at the edge of the lake, and location 4 on the west side of town. Location 3 would be fairly complicated from a feasibility standpoint because of the grading that would happen near the neighborhood, the actual roadway construction, and just the complications of designing a crossing sort of co-located with the weir entering the lake. And then location number 4 would require right-of-way acquisition, fairly extensive grading, given the slopes that are there, and roadway construction through, potentially sensitive areas. So we don't think that those locations are really the best options for new crossings in town, but rather would suggest future efforts focusing on locations 1 and 2. Location number 1 requires some right-of-way acquisition, and it would also require some different strategies on the connecting streets to mitigate the likelihood that it could be used for cut-through traffic. That's sort of there hasn't been a determination yet if these would be open to vehicular traffic year-round, or if they would only be open to people walking and biking. But there is sort of the idea that if they are going to be open to vehicular traffic, that you would need to do some sort of treatments on the streets connecting to them to reduce traffic through the neighborhoods. Location number 2, we think has similar benefits to location number 1, but we would like to, for the future, have the town consider if there's ways of aligning it, and particularly aligning the connecting roadways to really minimize the impacts on Chipeta Park. So there's probably myriad different ways of creating connections through the park to get to a bridge at that location. So we would just want to make sure that as those move forward in the future, that those are thoroughly identified and evaluated. So at the very least, we're hoping that this sort of thinning of options can help the town narrow for future design and engineering study and funding efforts, by at least getting it down to 50% of what it was before. So I'll just go through the remaining topics that I wanted to hit on with this group, and then get to Q&A as quickly as possible. On the pedestrian and bicycle improvements, this is a question that we asked in our survey that we did community-wide. And of participants that participate in the survey, we asked them, what improvements can we make to make walking and rolling better in Nederland? And the top responses that we got were to improve pedestrian crossings in town and to repair or add sidewalks in locations where they're missing in town. We also had a ability for folks who took the survey to give us specific locations where they thought that different improvements were necessary. This is just the raw feedback of showing the density of how many comments were put on any particular spot in town. These locations circled here, generally speaking, were locations where public comment indicated need for a new or improved crossing so that people could more easily get across the street. And then a handful of segments identified as high priority where sidewalk repair or addition would be particularly valuable, at least according to folks who took the survey. So I'll show a map showing a sort of a complete set of sidewalk and trail installations that we're proposing as a part of the multimodal plan. At least in terms of crossing improvements, we're identifying crossing improvements at the visitor center, and then new or improved crossings both at the park and ride across 2nd Street, as well as other new crossing locations in town, generally co-located with the locations where we got comments and public feedback. Recommending filling in different sidewalk gaps and improving connections to trails, and then also upgrading the crosswalks that do exist, both existing and proposed crossings in town, with what we're calling all-weather crossings. One of the frequent pieces of feedback that we've gotten is that the pavement markings or paint that are being used in town just really don't last long in the winter, and that it really is a detriment to people trying to get across the street, and really clarifying the expected operation both for people walking and people driving. So the example that we've got here is actually a location in Truckee, California. This is near the Donner Summit. I think Truckee gets something like 20 or 25 feet of snow on average every year. So what winter wear and tear is a big deal for them, like it is in Nederland. And you can see that they've generally done this in a lot of town, in a lot of parts of town, gone to a concrete crosswalk that features concrete on the edges, and then a stamped brick texture in the middle. I think I've got another picture of that on the next slide. Here's another one. There's different options for exactly what the color could be in the middle and the pattern of the brick. And certainly, it's not without experiencing some wear over time, but at the very least, it certainly does last a lot longer between needing refreshing as compared to the pavement markings that are there today. So categorically, that's sort of something that we've recommended. This is the map of proposed pedestrian and bicycle facilities in town. The blue lines are sidewalks, the green lines are trails. The easiest way to read this map is that the solid lines are sidewalks or trails that exist today, and then the dashed lines are different proposed sidewalks or trails. I'll let you all digest this just a little bit, but to describe a little bit for how we came up with this, we wanted to develop a set of recommendations that would fill in key sidewalk gaps in the downtown area, as well as filling in sidewalk gaps to access the bus stops in town, particularly across the busier streets like the Highway 119 and 72 through town. We wanted to also note the idea of that this includes some upgrading of different non-concrete materials that exist in town currently to concrete sidewalks to meet ADA standards. And then from a trail standpoint, a lot of the trail proposals here intend to formalize different desire lines that exist for trails, as well as to fill in different connections between trails. Can certainly come back to this, but I'll go ahead and move on to the next slide here. And then traffic calming. So these are different recommendations to slow traffic moving through town, which I think offers benefit to people walking, people biking, whether they're on street or whether they're crossing at different trails. One thing we're recommending is further sort of corridor wide efforts and redesigns on Highway 119 and Highway 72 that would be supportive of slowing the speeds on those streets as traffic is entering town. I already described all-weather crosswalks. I think those would likely be a feature of those roadway redesigns, as well as different treatments that might physically or visually narrow the roadway or sort of create center features in the roadway so that traffic has to weave or swerve around those center features. Those can be particularly effective at slowing traffic, particularly at the entrances of town. The way that CDOT often does the design efforts for these different geometric recommendations or roadway redesigns is through what they call an access control plan, which would take a look at the different non-CDOT roads, the different local roads, as well as property access points, and sort of collectively look to see how access and street design can work together to improve safety and provide a reasonable level of ability to move traffic through town as well. Lastly, we did want to point out that the town does have legal authority in the state of Colorado if they were to want to implement a speed camera program. We think that could potentially be helpful for managing speeds, again, really focused on the highways and the highways where they enter town specifically. I'll skip over the transit real quick and just talk a little bit, end with program and policy recommendations. We are expecting to make recommendations pertaining to maintenance and different ways of prioritizing how maintenance would occur on these different facilities. We've recognized that wayfinding is important around town, particularly as a lot of the trail segments in particular sort of seek to augment the street network. So what can we do from a signage standpoint so that once that system builds out, it's really easy and intuitive for people to use. And then some of these other program policy recommendations, pertain to elements probably not super relevant to PROSAB, but having some policies for studying traffic impacts for larger developments, and then improving education in terms of how both locals and visitors use the roundabout, and seeking external funding sources. So we've got a little bit over 10 minutes left. I'll go back to the very beginning and pause on this slide. Happy to answer questions or get into discussion about any of the items that I presented on, or get into some of the other topics as well with the time that you have for us. So thanks for having us.
Could you go back to the trail map slide?
Yes, let me get there. Yes, here you go.
It's still catching. I'm curious if, because I know there's no existing trails up to Big Springs, but I'm curious if that didn't pop on any of your community engagement, because if you can see in that, I don't know if you know the name of the neighborhood, but that it's the biggest residential neighborhood in town, and that whole south portion, there's no trail. So I'm curious if you have any context on why there is not a recommendation about that.
I can try to answer that. And Nikki, I know that you and my colleague Carly, who's not here tonight, spent a lot of time sort of identifying some of the possible connections here, but we did identify some of the sort of shorter crossings off of Ponderosa to connect Ponderosa down to Big Springs more directly. And I think some of those routes sort of informally exist today. So we've got those. As to trails more broadly through the area, I don't know exactly why we haven't proposed those, and it's very possible that it relates to lack of property. But Nikki, Miranda, perhaps if you know more, I'd welcome you to answer that. I can also generate a more thorough response and follow up if you'd like.
Sure. So these trails that we are discussing here in this particular map are in-town trails. And if you look at the Big Springs neighborhood, this is private land. So a lot of the trails that are in this area are on Boulder County open space or Forest Service or other things like that. If you've got a spot where we've got town land and you want to trail there.
I'm just talking even along, like, it's very dangerous when people are going up and down Big Springs on a bike or foot. And one of the key themes from our public charrettes was the Big Springs neighborhood feeling underserved from a multimodal perspective. So I'm just curious, like, in an ideal world, there's like a multimodal path along Big Springs Drive, which I have no idea the property rights there, but like.
Yeah, I think it's a lack of land and lack of space.
Cause you're talking like along the road, but like a pedestrian.
Exactly. Yeah.
Basically.
Isn't there like a pretty big easement though from the center of the road?
There is an easement, but if we start taking easement off of those people's property, what they consider their property, that's gonna open a can of worms. And a lot of that Big Springs Drive area, I mean, we'd have to build up the edge of the road in order to get a sidewalk in there.
Yeah, no, it's a very thin shoulder. I'm just thinking, like, if the whole point of this report is to have like recommendations that then can support seeking funding and mobilizing, like at least putting it in the plan, not that every single recommendation in this plan is going to come to fruition, but
Sure.
just, I know that was a key theme, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good point.
And a really.
And then we could add to the plan, Charlie, is trying to figure out how to get
Yeah, I think we can certainly, that's a great comment and something we can explore. And yeah, obviously, Nikki, you've conveyed a lot of the constraints there. It's possible we might be able to do a little bit more with the width that exists today. So we can look into that and possibly see if we can include that in the final recommendations.
Thank you.
I have another question on this map. It seems like a lot of the crossing issues that we have is because in order to get places in town, you have to cross the highway. And I'm wondering if we can actually solve some of those problems by providing trail access that circumvents having to cross the highway. I think there's a couple of places that I have identified just poking around that would allow people to get, like, certainly from Old Town over towards, Caribou and the elementary school without having to cross the highway. I think that would,
Keep it off the roads.
yeah, exactly. So you're not having to cross, I mean, because like a lot of those people currently have to cross the highway twice in order to use if you're coming from Old Town, you could use the sidewalk across the bridge, but then you have to cross probably like by the library or somewhere, and then you have to cross again above the visitor center, above the community center. And so that like really deters a lot of access for, kids who want to try to get to the school or something. So I think facilitating a trail that goes around that big loop of the highway, and then up through and there is existing town right of way through that neighborhood, that basically just comes, there's existing trail there, and that just continues, the right of way continues all the way down to Carver Road, so.
Yeah, perhaps if you can work with not being in the room and being able to see exactly where you're gesturing, maybe if you can work with Nikki or Miranda to mark that up, and shoot it our way. I'll share my here we go.
I just sent you a markup request.
Yep. Yeah, I just
Aw.
approved it. You should be good.
I have a question. I know the trail to the high school is complicated because of Boulder County, but is that what this dotted blue line is? Or what is that?
Yeah, that's where the sidewalk ends.
Yeah.
Yes, and that is.
Thank you, Silverstein.
And that is the proposed trail to go to the high school. And
It is,
then
okay.
What Luke's
Yep.
talking about,
Yeah,
That's-
my little thing didn't stay, but.
another spot where
I
the
saw it,
sidewalk
though.
ends.
It's kind of right here, and
Yeah.
then I hear you exactly where this access spot is. I think it's right off the end of, whatever street this is right here, actually.
Are you meaning to
can't-
be in Big Springs?
Yeah, I think he is.
Not drawing on, he's drawing on a different spot than showing up in.
Oh,
Oh, that's
Oh,
good.
I was like-
interesting. Okay.
Right.
Oh, now you're in the title.
I'm not gonna get used to the element.
I'm gonna keep making mine.
I mean, it's a small town, so just keep making lines. Eventually you'll hit it.
No.
But while he's doing that, all I wanted to say was even though I know it's complicated and intergovernmental, like I think it's important to have that
So
trail to
you
the high
actually
school
did just
there.
meet with the county yesterday. Do you?
Yeah, I did.
I don't know why I can't.
So I did meet with the county yesterday about the proposed trail off County Road 130. Basically asking for $50,000 towards landscape and design.
Focus for him.
I'm listening, Nikki.
We're leaving.
So I did just ask Boulder County yesterday for $50,000 towards schematic design, plans and construction plans for that trail. That is part of Boulder County's Trails Master Plan. So it has been added to their plan.
Yeah.
That's great.
They were excited to hear that we have verbal approval from Kayla Evans to get a little bit of easement off of the Arapahoe Ranch area, but it does still require intergovernmental agreements, specifically when it comes to maintenance, because that is Boulder County's road, but that sidewalk would be considered ours. So we would have to work out some kind of an intergovernmental agreement to see who's going to maintain said sidewalk. So if the town is awarded the $50,000 towards that design and plans, we still got to come up with $1 million of grant money. So, and right now we're looking at not any money toward any kind.
Is that what it is, $1 million to build that sidewalk from the top to the high school?
And that was pre-2020 quotes.
Okay.
Where the sidewalk ends to the high school with a crossing.
Yeah, I was just asking.
It would benefit, though, it would not just benefit the town. It would also benefit Boulder County with Sugar Mag Trail being right there.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it seems
But
like
if it's
Boulder
in
County is probably in favor of kids not getting hit,
Absolutely,
so.
absolutely.
But they wouldn't pay for any more than 50,000. It's in their plan.
No, I just asked for $50,000 towards the plan. After that, we would have to take next steps, probably as a group. Because it would be an intergovernmental agreement where, it'd be our sidewalk in the end. But how that would all work out remains to be seen. And what Luke's talking about, the trails that go from the elementary school down to Caribou Road, that comes through Tom Riley Park. And so there is already I guess a social trail, or maybe it's an animal trail that comes through Tom Riley Park. I've actually talked with Jesse about this in the long past, how that's not, people assume that the trail goes on to Sundown Circle, or Sundance Circle in that area, and it doesn't. The trail actually cuts through Tom Riley Park, and then it comes down through, it does cross private land at one spot, but there is a spot a little bit further up where you could access BLM land, drops you right down onto Caribou Road.
There's also like a street easement, like whatever that is, that would be right basically in front of where the childcare center would go, is like, I don't forget the name of that street, but that street easement continues straight up.
Yes,
through
yeah, that's, Brown's, oh wait, what street is that? It's the very, very end of Fifth Street. I can't remember. It's a road that we never call Colson. It's not Colson. Is it Colson? I can't
No.
remember. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That is a street easement. We didn't vacate that, did we?
No, board will consider it in a couple months.
Consider vacating it?
Fifth Street.
Well, I'm the very end where Fifth Street ends, dead ends there.
Well, they
There's
won't
an
all the
old-
way, won't go all the way. They're only gonna, the request is only to vacate the piece that would extend into the parcel.
The very end on the west side of Jeanette Smith's property.
Right.
So,
So that would still retain right of way for the town in that event, what you said?
Yeah,
So it could still be connected
yes,
potentially.
yes.
yeah.
So Charlie, are there like key things you want to wrap up with, or any other questions? Like, should we take some time to sit with this and like shoot you notes or anything? Would that be helpful, or?
Yeah, certainly welcome that. I mean, again, our overall point that we're at is we've got draft recommendations. There's some good suggestions coming here in terms of things to explore to polish these up for final. We can send the PowerPoint out following the meeting, and if folks want, my email is in it. Feel free to send comments to myself or Nikki or Miranda while she's still there, but Britt afterwards. And we're happy to consider those for inclusion. We'd also welcome anyone here from PROSAB to participate in our community process that'll be happening over the summer.
Sweet. Thank you so much.
Thank
Does anybody
you.
have any?
I
Yeah.
feel like the timing of this is like really helpful as we talk about the update to our comp plan and to pros, which is kind of dovetailing off that. So I feel like we could maybe take some of this information and put it in those forthcoming plans. And it seems like there's some really good info in here that's based off of community feedback. And so thank you so much for presenting to us.
Yeah. Thanks, Charlie.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thanks,
Thanks
Charlie.
for having me. See ya. Bye.
Tell your dog we said bye.
Thank you.
Good call. Thank you, 100%. So the next thing on the agenda is just a super quick report back. Sorry, Casey, I added your name
Oh,
too,
you're
just
fine.
because you were on there, but you don't have to if you don't want to. Casey and I attended the Natural Resources Stakeholder Subcommittee meeting for
Focus
the
group.
focus group, thank you, for the comp plan a couple weeks ago, I guess it was now. And I just wanted to like share with like the group nothing like too in depth, but just a quickie report back. So PROSAB was on there, several people from SAB, the fire department, Rhea Roble from Peak Ecological Services, the Watershed Collective, Boulder Watershed Collective, am I forgetting? And other people. Oh, it's Sam Peterson from Colorado Parks and Wildlife. I was like, Sam? No, different Sam. And I'm sure I'm missing some people, but just to give you a sense of like who was in the room. So it was sort of like an open, like, tell us what matters in this kind of context from the consultants. And so, the fire department and a lot of people talked a lot about fire mitigation. And I mentioned to Charlie that CT was hoping to mobilize some volunteers, and we had a conversation about, like liability and that sort of thing. Let's see, some people raised some ideas for and resources for sort of environmental reviews of different like town projects. So, Sam Peterson from CPW talked a lot about their work to sort of like, I mean, they do a lot of things, but like mostly working with large mammals, I think is how he described it. So it was talking about like wildlife corridors and, being bear aware and all of that sort of thing. So Sam was definitely like a good person to check in terms of like elk migration corridors and that sort of thing for like any infrastructure projects. Like he mentioned one specific area that's really important that I didn't really know where he was talking about, but so he's just like a really great resource. He's a good egg. Rhea talked about, the rare flora and fauna and wetlands and riparian corridors, as did SAB. And then Rhea also mentioned like the idea of creating some sort of like guideline, especially for homeowners around sort of like good ways to steward your wetlands and such, like don't cut down all of the, greenery around the creek because you want to see the creek. But like talking about willows and such. And then SAB mentioned that they have like a scorecard that I hadn't been familiar with before, but seemed like a really interesting thing and possibly as part of the NPP would be my guess, but
Yeah, they use a sustainability scorecard to score all projects.
great.
It's on their page for the website.
And then, and Rhea mentioned noxious weeds, and like, some folks were wondering kind of what's the plan for the summer. The Watershed Collective mentioned beavers a lot, which I put in my notes because beavers are awesome and they're doing like a beaver relocation thing.
Oh, they are?
They said they were, yeah, and I saw it on their Insta. So like,
They're putting them up here so they can build surf waves and stuff.
okay, now all I can picture is a beaver on a surfboard, but thanks, Sam.
That's
And are they relocating like up to the creeks in?
Oh, it wasn't Ned specific.
Oh,
No,
okay.
no. I mean, I don't know. They might be, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just,
Call it Beaver Creek over there for nothing.
yeah. So anyway, they do amazing work, and like that was just, I was very excited when they started talking about the beaver stuff. So I don't know where the relocation is, but they were talking about that.
It's at Arapahoe Ranch.
Oh,
You're right. Yes, thank you. So it's nearby. And yeah, so that's like, I mean, other stuff too. I don't know, like, I don't want to like, spend too much time, but just to give you guys a sense of the report back. And I mentioned that PROSAB is working on like a volunteer mobilization. Somebody mentioned the Boulder Bear Coalition and sort of bear aware type educational programming. So yeah, it was a cool meeting, like, which is like a bunch of interesting, related stuff for the work that we do. So I don't know if there's.
Yeah, I guess the one thing, thank you for recapping, Kat. You did a great job on that, and maybe we can tie it back to the comp, like, I think was the whole point of doing the focus group, like to update the natural resources section of the comp plan, and they kind of just wanted to see like what updates we're doing and. But I guess one thing I really took away from it was just that, like, I don't necessarily think like PROSAB operates in a silo, like in any way. Like, I feel like we collaborate with like other boards when needing to and liaising with the trustees and all that. But I think the meeting also showed that there's these other entities out there that we could potentially, collaborate, beyond like the concept of our town government. Tapping into like our, Sam with CPW and talking about that, and you put in your notes, Kat, that, that sometime maybe PROSAB should run, potential project locations with CPW to make sure we're not affecting elk or wildlife corridors. And then I think working with the Boulder Watershed Collective.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of liked how it was kind of like a nice, like, melting pot of all these different groups that maybe we can think about just maybe moving forward of engaging with various things beyond the comp plan.
Yeah.
That seems great, like, just to be able to reach out to them for different things and then just kind of get the ultimate, like, yep, no. Potentially if they're, in terms of what they're tuned into, we're like, what if we put something through here?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's on the table. We're like, no, we know.
And I feel like the Boulder Watershed Collective is unusually well like connected because of all of their work on the wildfire program. So they like know everyone, even like the name might not, like, because like may not know that from like just the nonprofit's mission, but since they are updating the wildfire plan, they know like everybody. Yeah, and they're just really great people. And they get to hang out with beavers. Sure.
While we're on this topic, and it's a little bit different, but you have another memo that just came out to you. I sent out the sustainability and resiliency memo, and there's a focus group for that on Wednesday, the 22nd at 2:30 for anyone who can attend that. But those are in person only. That makes them a little different.
Yeah, and I think all of the,
Here.
I think the natural resources memo, the parks memo and the resiliency memo, we all have in our inboxes. So
Yeah.
people, when I know I saw Alex added some comments, like I've been trying to add a bunch of comments. So, but anyone and everyone is welcome to add comments to those.
I would ask you later, because technically Parks and Natural Resources closed yesterday.
Oh, you're right.
Closed, but the link is still active, so feel
Yeah.
free if you want to. I don't want to keep going, I don't want them to feel like they have to keep going and checking.
Yeah.
But the resiliency is very open, and we're asking that you provide your feedback by Tuesday, the 21st.
So, but yeah, no, it was just kind of cool to have that. It was an interesting mix of people. So, like a really interesting and good and helpful mix. So, well, all right, Nikki, done.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
That was excellent. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the witty intro.
An old but okay.
So honestly, all of our staff reports this month kind of stink. And that's because when Miranda announced that she was leaving, everybody forgot everything. And I haven't had time for anything. And so, blame Miranda, but,
Get that in the notes. It's all Miranda's fault.
It'll be my fault for a long time.
That's
That's what you're supposed to do when someone leaves.
right, that's right. It's
Playing one.
so natural.
For like the rest of the weeks.
Yeah, I feel you, Peter. So, I did talk about the objectives that I have with the BOT, which I think I reviewed most of my objectives with you guys last month. We talked about the PROS plan, being pushed back a little bit, to align with our comprehensive plan. We talked about the safer Main Street, so it was interesting to me that Charlie was referring to the crosswalks and the crosswalk markings. Because the current construction design plan with CDOT and, Town of Nederland is to, do milling recesses. So we mill a little bit down into the asphalt and then put the paint into those millings, or into the spot where we milled out. I talked with CDOT today. They're gonna be starting that overlay project on the 28th of May. That's when you'll start to see the construction start to really happen hot and heavy. When they come through, the two crosswalks that they'll be dealing with during this overlay project that they're doing toward Cold Creek Canyon, they intend on just putting down some markings. They may or may not preemptively mill into the asphalt at that time, but if you see the new crosswalk markings being put in, don't think that's the last step. Because we still have to go through the SMS project where you'll see the beaconed crosswalks come in at the Rock Shop and then at the library, a new crosswalk at Jefferson between the Presbyterian Church and Peak Liquor Store or the feed store. Then you'll see another crosswalk at the Visitor Center to Crosscut. That one will not be beaconed. The beaconed crosswalk will be at the Rock Shop. And then you'll see also in coordination with that, you'll see the sidewalks getting replaced from the roundabout up to Townsend Village. I talk a little bit in here about, Barker Meadows Park. It's considered a completed project through GOCO. But to us, the town, we've still got a dirt field down there. Recently, the NDDA approved $6,500 towards surveying and schematic design of the rain garden. The rain garden features the next component that is necessary to continue beautification of the area directly east of the AmeriGas property. I asked for more than 6,500, because I wanted the complete survey, survey schematic design is what they are paying for. But I wanted the full design plans and construction plans for that, and was not awarded that at this time by the DDA. Hopefully soon. And then we all talked about it at the last meeting, how the mediation between the rink and tennis pickleball really failed. And so we'll be moving forward with that concept paper on our own. So April, we had a lot of snow and wind, and the spring came, I think, this week, which is awesome. I think, I don't know, I don't want to count my chickens or nothing, but
Now it's gonna.
right. So this is the time of year where I start to get a lot of trash is starting to come out from under the snow. I start to get a lot of residents, making me more aware than I already am of the trash, the dog poop, the dog waste, and not just that, but also just damage from heavy snows and plowing and all of those things. So we've had to repair some fences. We've done several trash walks of, kind of heftier trash walks where we're collecting, each one of us is getting a full bag. But then, daily, we're really monitoring that downtown area a little bit closer right now, because I am hearing from some of the business owners, they're not, really pleased with the amount of trash on that lower side. So my next goal will be to go along to the business owners that are heavily contributing to the trash problem on the kind of, I guess, the Snyder intersection area. Talk to the businesses that are down in that area to try and see if there's something that they can do to control their own trash, not just like ice cream cups or something like that. I'm talking about trash that's blowing out of their dumpsters. So with Miranda leaving, as you guys all know, I'll be taking over this interim position. Really, it really starts heavy for me next Friday. But I have a very competent and capable staff. Brian and Mark have both been with me for a couple years now, and so there's no doubt in my mind that my staff will be able to handle the Parks Department while I'm tied up in other things. We've done several walks through all of our parks and made lists where the guys will tackle, each park, each project, and we'll make priority lists. So right now the priority list goes through the end of the month of things that have to be completed by the end of the month, such as the complete conversion of the rink to tennis, opening all the bathrooms, getting all the water turned back on, getting the flowers, getting deadheaded in the garden and that kind of thing. Judy's not gonna do her beautification planting until around the 6th of June. So you won't see the flowers come in around town until around then. But anyway, that's about all. We're doing stuff.
You got it.
Thanks.
We're doing stuff.
You can do it. And also, what was the NDA's reasoning for not funding?
I could take that one.
Thank
So
you.
the DDA is, they're feeling a little bit like they're a bank for the town.
Yeah.
They feel like their job is to do larger scale infrastructure for the whole downtown, and the rain garden is just one subset. And I did say, like, I kind of flat out said to them, like, you historically have been just that to town, and so you can't be offended that we're coming. But I think I encourage the DDA, and I hope they really will do it, as a joint work session with the Board of Trustees when it's time to budget, to really talk about, like, hey, we as town can't afford these things. We'd like to partner and see where is that give and take. But they kind of made it clear, like, they're tired of just being asked for money. They really do want to, and it was great to hear for the first time, they really do want to do large scale infrastructure. So they can't do every little one-off request that comes.
Right, well, that's
Yeah.
fine.
So it was a great reason, but for a very long time, even Chris Peltier's days, we just kind of think,
For themselves.
yeah, you go to them, they're the bank, you get the money from them, and then you keep going. And so it was cool to see, but I'm actually glad it wasn't just a full no. I think we were able to get it to, like, at least do phase one, at least let us study this thing so we know what we need.
And they, were encouraging in the sense that they said we'll give you this money for the schematic design
Yeah.
and surveying. And then you come back to us with those schematic designs and surveys and show us that this is gonna be a viable area for a performance space. And we'll go from there. So it wasn't, I
So
did
it's like
not
there's
feel like
some
I got,
steps forward and they're
Not
like, oh, we're trying to save money to do big things or something like that.
yeah, so,
They
it's-
actually already have their money pretty tied up at this point.
yeah.
Okay,
So it's a little bit of rob Peter to pay Paul type situation when you do
Gotcha.
go to them for money right now.
yeah,
But it's cool. I mean, they've got money tied up and if they can actually execute those projects.
that's great.
That would be a good thing.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. I was just curious.
No problem.
I figured they had some kind of reason.
Can I just ask a quick question off of that, like about them historically being the bank? I mean, can you speak to, just super briefly to their funding?
Yeah, they get tax increment financing. It's a special tax in their district that goes straight to them.
Okay.
And so it's not it's not a funding stream available to the town. You have to have a downtown development authority, but it gives the ability to do an additional tax.
Okay,
So, they've got.
so they have a steady stream of revenue that
Yeah,
That we
their
don't.
boards don't necessarily have. I mean, we have the marijuana
right.
tax, but it seems like that's a lot smaller.
Yeah, but even that they
That's
have.
not the board, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Board.
but that's, the tax increment financing still has the board of trustees still ultimately approve. So the DDA, like they have a ton of resolutions right now trying to free up funding. They still have to go to the board who has the ultimate say over how they spend that money. But they have a budget to work off of every year, unlike other boards and commissions.
And one more question there, if I can add to your question, is if they were to, like, let's say when they get their big plans done, would that help them get more revenue at all in any fashion, like for their stuff? I was just curious.
I mean, the point is to like really address blight. That's what it
Yeah.
really is for.
Yeah.
And so I think the intention is to increase the business.
Right,
So which in turn could increase their tax increment
That was
financing,
what-
yeah,
yeah.
increase the sales
Like
tax
as
for the
a
town.
side effect,
Yeah, I mean, that's the point of a DDA, and I think just historically have always struggled, and so that's why a little bit of kind of a baked comment is that Chris Pelletier used to go to them and be like, fund our sidewalk, fund these things, like, if you're not gonna do it, let us do it. And it's cool to see the DDA being like, no, we really do wanna do these projects
Right.
ourselves, so. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point, is to
Okay, great, yeah.
create a vibrant downtown in order to really spur up robust economic development.
Well, it's great to hear that that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's great.
Agreed.
All right, we are running just a scooch behind, so is it cool if we move on? All right, and then we have a secret extra bullet point under informational items. That's not really an informational item that Casey is going to take on.
No.
I take what? I don't have anything. Okay, she'll be right back because this is Miranda's last meeting with us, and
no.
so we wanted to thank you for your service.
Awkward.
You are so
Awkward is the
thoughtful.
best.
Technology.
My card is-
Yes,
Thank
well,
you
yes,
so much.
And that will miss you.
I'm gonna miss you all so much. I've been like crying every day, so I'm trying to. It's been rough.
We did not mean to make you cry, but we wanted to say thank you. So,
I'm gonna bring it down here.
That's
Yeah.
a good,
that's probably a good idea.
yeah.
There's a lot of electronics. So, yeah. I know. That's true. You have to have like a separate packing, like a separate.
Yeah.
folder just for the plug.
Those are
Yeah.
great.
Sure, I want to
Build a
I
greenhouse.
like you. I like the way you think.
There we go.
So
Thank
anyway,
you. Thank you. I miss you all. Thank you so much.
we appreciate all you've done.
Yeah,
Give
it's
us-
a huge.
Yeah, give us a couple years, we'll name a Parker.
It's a long.
Like a
So far created the Parks Department. It is only fair.
You want
that
to-
She had a,
Yeah.
she get a park.
You get it then. You get it then.
I just have to celebrate that. It's just such a huge accomplishment of coming in and keeping a team of one and realizing the potential here and being able to advocate for that and make it happen. It was an incredible thing, an incredible moment for me to go from one to a team of four and all the things you all have been able to do. It's very humbling that we're here and being able to be part of that.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Well, thank you.
I've said it since she done it. And since she did it, I said, if there's one thing people will remember you for, that was good. You created the Parks Department.
Yeah, it's interesting. We're actually gonna quickly just draft a quick article. There's sometimes people say like, oh, nothing's happened. It's like, that's just one of many things that
Yeah.
happened in
Yeah.
the last 5 years. with the time I've been here, with the team I've been with, we've done a lot of incredible things, so.
Truly.
You
I
all,
want to celebrate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing.
So true. Well, thank you.
Miranda, I don't know if you caught the joke during the town administrator interviews that they said, well, you should just hire all four of us and then you'll have.
That's
three."
basically a test.
Yeah, they said that test too. So one of the candidates said that.
I was like, how do you, well, that's not right. Good, good,
I was like, if
good.
all four of you are willing to
Like,
split
here
this
we
out.
go, right? That's true. That's true.
All right, we didn't get you first, but you're next. Sorry, dude.
I'll share.
Flowers and.
And you have 15 minutes.
Sure.
But if you.
Are you
feel
sharing
less than,
screen?
feel yours.
Yeah, I will try to get through my presentation pretty quick,
Okay.
because I want to save time for feedback. Today, I'm going to be just going over the highlights of a tourism management strategy that I've been working on with the Colorado Tourism Office.
Cool.
Yeah,
New logo.
new logo. We are rolling that out.
I see that.
Trigger.
I think everyone.
Is this a citizen design or was this a Godot?
It's a collaboration.
A collaboration.
Yeah,
It's not AI, so that's good.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
not AI.
Cool. Love it. I really do.
All right, so this, this management strategy came out of the Destination Blueprint program, which is a continuation from Reimagined Destinations, which we did 2 years ago, to kind of assess our tourism needs and how we can best address those. So out of that, this most recent program, we received from the CTO a destination assessment, full day workshop, and the 100 hours of free consulting. So this will be the second workshop we have done about tourism management in 2 years. And or we already did that last year. But the 100 free hours is what went into this management strategy as we identified the need for something to help us wrangle the tourism that we have in a more structured environment. So it started off initially as a 2-year strategy, and then blended out into a 3-year strategy as things just kept getting added to it that we identified needed to happen. So we have a number of short-term and long-term objectives. Like I mentioned, the whole strategy is to create a roadmap that we can use to kind of navigate tourism as our town changes and grows. There's a huge community component on it. You know, we don't want to just force through anything that we think is good without getting any kind of feedback on that, which is why I'm taking this to all the boards and commissions for feedback, and then doing public engagement on it so we can get pretty much everyone's feedback, because I'm sure we'd miss something, because it's really just me and Beth from the CTO that have been working on this, and we're just 2 people, which is great because it means we get to move fast, but you know, there's probably a lot of things that we're just not saying.
You guys are pretty sharp.
There's a lot out. So we went in knowing that this needed to align with all of the other plans that are happening right now. We really did want to reinvent the wheel, so we just used Envision 2030 and the feedback from those workshops as our framework and started building off of that. But we also were looking at where the comp plan, the multimodal transportation plan, all those are going. I know the PROSAB is still in work, so hopefully that is something we are trying to address. We're kind of working off of the last one right now. But yeah, like I said, we started with Envision 2030 as that there was a lot of work put into it, and going and looking at those vision statements, we realized that all of them have a tourism component. It may not look like it from like immediately, but you know, tourism does play a huge part in every single one of these aspects.
Yeah.
So that was very helpful in getting us started. And it really plays a lot into the values of what we want to see for the next, 3 years for tourism for this plan, but, for the next 10 years for town. So our goals for this is to engage with the community, the businesses, and the people that are just coming into town. Really focus on a sustainable tourism, something that isn't going to just change the town, isn't going to just like wreck all of our trails or turn all of our housing into short-term rentals, things like that. And also set up a way that we can just monitor it, get good what's the word I'm looking for? Data, and use that to modify and create a more long-term plan after those 3 years. Because we haven't had one before, we didn't want to do something that was so far-reaching. We wanted to kind of keep it in the or narrow scope for the time being. Hopefully you've looked through the strategy. It is long, so I'm not going to go through every single goal here, but for the purposes of this meeting, I do want to touch on a few of the goals that are very PROSAB specific to get your feedback on those. So these are the 4 goals here. We broke it into kind of major goals, and from there are different strategies and actions on how we want to do those. So let's see, goal 2 strategy 2.1. This thing is so long, I always forget exactly what goal 2 is. Goal 2 is educate and manage visitors. Okay. So yeah, we want to be able to create education materials that are both very respectful of the town, the community, and help educate people on, not just the best places to go, but how to do Nederland right, for a lack of a better term for right now. We've already kind of started working on that with the branding and creative strategy, plus everything that came out of Region Edge and Destination. So we have a lot of that. That is one of the current ongoing goals. We just need to start getting those made up and out. Goal number 4, which is improving the visitor and community experience. One of our strategies there was to collaborate on projects to steward trails and open spaces. And this is kind of where I'm hoping to get Parks and PROSAB more involved, because you all know these things way better than I do.
Sort of seems an appropriate spot.
Yeah, exactly. And, we also, when we were creating these, looked at all of our boards and commissions. We're like, how can we get them involved in each space? Goal 5 was research impact monitoring and reporting. So this is something that the CTO has been helping us with, but I would love to have our own systems in place in the future to be able to show what the impact of tourism is on our open spaces and the trails that are outside of town. And that leads into our 6th goal here, which is to strengthen regional and state organizational partnerships. I thought it was cool that you kind of touched on that during your conversation, because it's like, hey, this ties into exactly what I'm doing right now. I think it was during one of the workshops, someone mentioned that Nederland is a town within a park, basically. And, because we are surrounded by a lot of, open space and have a lot to do with like the Forestry Service. We need to be strengthening those relationships with the organizations that are outside of town specific, because so much of what we do impacts those areas, and so much of what they had impacts us. So questions for you. I was hoping to get feedback of how you see tourism supporting Nederland over these 3 years of the plan. What do you think of the actions that are highlighted in the last slide there? And specifics for 4.3, which was collaborate on projects to sort of trails and open spaces. That needs to be fleshed out a lot, so hopefully I get some feedback on that. And just what other things you want to see, anything in the plan that you might have seen that needs to change, that we just missed completely, or missed the mark on and just needs to be removed. Well, that's my presentation.
Thank you.
I would love to hear from you.
Can you go back to the questions?
Yes.
So I actually have a question. So I understand why 4.3, like it relates to us, of course, but like, what does that mean? Like, I guess like, what does it mean for us? I guess I'm not sure
Well,
what it means for it to be like like, cause that's what the parks team does already. Like, how does that relate to?
but we also have like, with the NATO group, and there's other groups that are doing things, and
So it's more of a big picture.
yes.
Way of, oh, I see, it's under improving visitor
Yeah.
and community experience. Okay, got it. That's super helpful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and that's why like some of these need to be fleshed out more than just the sentence that we wrote in.
Yeah,
But yeah, because there's so many formal and informal trails.
Yeah.
Just trying to get people on the same page about, what is an actual trail, what isn't a trail.
exactly. I think to that end, like the sort of like signs and wayfinding and direction, like just making sure like people who are in town, like who are visitors in particular, know like how to get around from different places and also don't just like go tromping through like, sensitive ecological areas because they think like this is the wilderness and they can just walk wherever.
Yeah.
For this whole table, the strategy table, is it like the town, like it's like create, grow, collaborate, is the town the one that's doing the collaborating, or I don't know what, like, like who's doing the action, or who do you envision doing like those, all of these kind of goals?
Me.
Yeah.
Mostly. So one thing that's not mentioned in this is, and I've been pretty open and vocal about this, is I want, if everything goes according to plan after year 3, to have the visitor center be an autonomous structure that would be handling all visitor stuff. So it'd be like a tourism office almost,
Okay,
either under
Makes
town
sense.
still or under like the DDA or chamber or something.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I would love it to be, running itself without needing me to be in on it. As much as I love it, it is a lot of work. So for the time being, I am working on this, but the dream is to be able to just hand it off to someone else to do as a full-time job.
okay.
I got some ideas or feedback.
I love it.
Try and be brief with it. I think one thing we can do here at PROSAB is invite the different groups that are outside of the governmental organizations to present that are related to like the connectivity and the tourism as it relates to the parks, recreation, open space. And then that way, anything that we're doing, and as we do recommend and see more trail connectivity, we can just basically just be smarter, right? It's like, oh, you're already excited about that? Great. And they can keep us up to date on what visions the different organizations around town have. And then we can help support that through an advisory role in terms of resources and things that may make sense to collaborate on there. And then I think, well, to your point, wayfinding, just like advising on wayfinding to occur in all capacities. And then just heavily advocating for, and something we're already kind of on track for, is just connectivity of trails throughout town. And so that we make it just a great experience to be here when you're navigating outside of, like where you park for different things. And from there, where you can walk or ride, and that just advocating for that being super clear and super robust and built out. And I think that's really our role, is to advocate in terms of an advisory capacity.
Cool. So very helpful information.
I do think that on the list of things that PROSAB could be involved in,
Mhm.
we're not currently doing this, but we are reassessing our goals, which, oh, I meant to mention that'll be on the next agenda. We just didn't have time today. But we are currently assessing our board goals, and I do think there's some potential for, it seems like a good place for like PROSAB and volunteers in general to be involved with the sort of education component, like the taking leave no trace type materials and like figuring out like how to get those out to people and what kind of like, they're probably not flyers, so like how, what are they, right?
Well,
Like,
just add that we could have Leave No Trace come up. The offices are in Boulder.
yeah,
That I used to work for
yeah,
years ago.
yeah. So I do feel like that's like
Yeah.
a really good place where,
Yeah.
where volunteer power could be, right? Like, cause, yeah, so that's all. Actually have time,
Okay.
but
If you have any other things that you think of,
Add one more.
I got to go ahead.
let me, you can always email me.
I don't know.
After the fact.
Just because you have this picture of Red Lake here.
Mhm.
How much partnership do we need with Boulder County as it,
Yeah.
as it relates to our tourism program?
That's a great point.
You know, because that's, you know, technically not allowed on Mud Lake or Boulder County.
Yeah,
But it's a big part of, you know, certainly community recreation here to go out and play on the ice, so. I'd love to see more collaboration with Boulder County because there's so much of their property, it has its fingers into town.
yeah,
I think a lot of our trails cross Boulder County, a lot of our recreational paths and corridors, so.
yeah,
And they're like notoriously, you know, curmudgeonly around trail building, so it'd be good to have like a strong push to be like, this is what our community needs, we need your support.
cool.
And that may look, I'm sorry, I'm understanding. That may look like, you know, one of us trying to go to their meetings once a month
Mhm.
and just create a relationship.
yeah, I saw actually, they started posting the agenda for their Parks Recreation, like advisory board meetings. I'm not sure that would be the right place, but I saw the agenda and I was like, oh yeah, hey, it's like a thing.
So
So how should people get other thoughts and stuff to you? Did you email you?
Yeah, you can always just email me, engagement@netherlandsco.org. I'll be meeting with every board and then doing public stuff probably in July.
cool.
So, yeah, you know, if you just see me, just let me know what you think.
Peter.
Have you thought about like as far as community engagement and I'm gonna call it acceptance of this,
Mhm.
like, I know there's a lot of people who are outspoken who really are, want us to discourage tourism in Nederland because they don't want more tourists.
Yeah.
So just like have some good angles to like get people on board.
The,
I do like what you said about like sort of
Yeah.
managing the
Yeah.
tourism that we have.
that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
We're not trying to get more tourism.
Yeah.
We don't have the infrastructure for it. It's to manage what we do have in a way that is beneficial to our community.
Extract.
Yeah. Get people to leave their money.
Town should open a breakfast burrito and coffee stand, like basically right in front of the
Yeah.
bank. Thank you. So there, so that all the people who are backed up on traffic waiting to get in Deltora, they're just sitting there in their cars, can like get a breakfast burrito.
Just revise our
You would make
public
millions.
Yeah.
So
I,
I'm gonna have to call the timing on this one, because we have a lot of stuff still on the agenda, so I love the idea, but we're gonna have to move on.
We'll talk later about the.
Anything involving burritos is good. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, like definitely reach out to Peter if you have ideas or other questions. So the next thing, we didn't get to do this last time because Sam wasn't able to make it, but Sam's gonna give us an update on what happened with the pump track. And then sort of what he and the subcommittee are thinking in terms of next steps. And if you could keep it to 10, that would be great.
Again.
You can. Okay, great. Thank you. Go.
My life's work here. So the pump track, it obviously got voted down. Did y'all talk about that at the last meeting? Okay, so
Not officially.
okay, so it went to the ballot in terms of location at Chipeta Park. And we all know that that was a ballot measure that technically doesn't, like as we discussed, didn't have teeth, but it was a temperature check style. And I don't know the official numbers on it. Do you know offhand?
It was about
Like
60,
2/3.
yeah, 66 to 33
Yeah.
ish.
So it was the majority said, no, we don't want it at Chapita Park. And so that's fine. That's what they said. We asked them, and now we know. So basically I just didn't think about it for a second, because that was depressing and, or sad. And that's fine. And then we started thinking about it again and going, okay, what can we do? And so we started looking at what are our other options, right? We have this design money. I think the non-official consensus that I'm hearing is people want a pump track, they just don't want it at Chapita Park, in talking to other people. And so with that in mind, we started looking at options. And what I'd love to do just in a quick 5 minutes is just a brainstorm of ideas of where we could put it, not any negatives of why we can't put it in certain places, just like a quick brainstorm, we'll write some ideas down. And also recognizing that today we did go and meet with Rob Price, the Assistant Superintendent of Boulder Valley School District up at Ned Middle High, because Gavin, the principal, had expressed an interest in having it up there. So we said, okay, let's go explore that option. We know it's not town land, and just find out what that means. So there was a group of people that went today, and including Billy. Jesse was there.
I wish I'd been there.
We wasn't able to make it, unfortunately. And so we got the details initially to then follow up on it, because it comes with its own set of details. And so basically it was like, let's go see, is it an option? And so I'm not gonna really go any more into that at the moment, because I don't have the details beyond that. We met to see what the options were and if it's even a viable spot. I'll follow up on it at the next meeting. I'll have some concrete understanding of what that option would look like. So yeah, if we can take 5 minutes and just like brainstorm other ideas that people might have where we can put it, I'd love to hear them, so we can basically just put the new list together.
Do you have any base criteria for what we're looking for?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. Is some base criteria is ideally it's pretty dang flat, is helpful. Technically we can grade stuff, but it'd be nice if it's pretty dang flat to begin with. And then sunny is good, not a requirement, but it would melt out snow faster. So a little bit open and sunny is nice, not super north facing. And those are like the big ones. And the next criteria that comes to mind is like the closer to town, the better in a way, right? Because like we're trying to serve the downtown area with that, and recognizing that like that was the original intention there, but
Can you use the design money on something outside DDA?
that's another question.
No.
Okay.
And I don't know if the DDA wants to continue to fund this.
Right, and so.
Well, I think we already paid it in full,
I think so too. I don't know how much the second invoice ended up being though.
Yeah,
so.
I don't know if it was a full 5,000 because they didn't reach the completion, but I would say if there's any money on the table, I'm not sure they have the appetite to want to continue.
I just
Right.
think that they haven't fulfilled what we've already paid them for as the design company, but I could be wrong. I thought they took payment in full for their design service.
They took half up front,
Okay,
and that's why I don't even know if there was a final invoice. I'm to be honest, I'm not really sure that's
Yeah.
between
gotcha.
Kate and them, but they took half up front.
Yeah.
But there's no reason to pay them to do a 3D design of Chapita.
Right, so it seems
Yeah.
like that's a question.
yeah, it's
And that was,
To figure out.
the money was approved for Chapita Park pump track.
For DDA.
For the DDA district.
yeah.
That's why I was wondering if the.
Yeah,
Right, and it's a good
I don't
question.
think we can use it, can't use any DDA money on anything that's not in the DDA district.
Right, that's what they're.
Well, there's other possible spots in the DDA.
I guess my only concern is you've either exhausted it or whatever's left is not enough money to design. And just being really mindful of how the DDA was feeling. I'm a little
Yeah.
concerned. Just politically, that might not feel the best for them if you went back to them and said, now fund another design. Because they feel like they funded something.
Oh, totally, and I would more want to go back to the design company and say, hey, we're adjusting. Can you give us another 2D design for this, a different area? I don't wanna speak for them, but.
Well,
frankly, it
let's
seems
put
pretty
the money aside for a second and
Yeah.
just see if there's other location ideas, or if there's even a will on behalf of this board to still create a
Pursue
pump
it,
track.
yeah,
I'm burnt, guys.
burn out on it.
I'm burnt. I've been fighting the pump track for 10 years and it seems like everything that I've done, the community has come back one way or another. Not to say that I won't support it or, stand behind y'all.
Same, I mean, that was never really my, the thing I was most excited about when I initially came to you,
Yeah.
used to be Sam. you
Yeah.
know? We were trying to get that in there as something that seemed like it was a favorable idea.
Yeah.
You were excited about it.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool. I would love to see it, but it's not really like the thing that I wanted to say I would give this to the town. Like I was offering
You
some
want
bike
trails.
trails, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's,
So that's why I don't know that there's a will to create a pump track at this point.
I think the community is kind of spicy. We said it in that meeting the other day. Maybe we could call it something other than a pump track and they'd approve it. But I think
I mean,
So-
interesting, like that is, I said that, I think like a bike park, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and anyway. we don't
and
need to
part
get
of
into
the
all that,
pump
but-
track design that we had would have been a bike park, but
Exactly, but
I think that is a trigger word and
yeah.
I'll say like I get it, and it's semantics, and people need to act like adults. It's my opinion.
yeah. So if that's something that you all want to, that's something that you all would want to pursue, of course, it's a park amenity and I love that, so,
I do think,
but
I mean, it is a
I'm
good
burnt.
question though, because
Yeah.
that's why I didn't want to say at the last meeting whether the subcommittee was gonna like, what they were gonna do, because I want to know what I think
Yeah.
I don't really even know what the subcommittee looks
Well,
like.
it's really like Luke and I now,
Okay.
I'm still there.
and
Yeah.
you're still there.
I mean, yeah, you can totally,
Here.
of course.
Yeah.
He's here. So like, do you all want to continue to investigate other options and bring back? And then we can, cause it like, right, cause then if it is at the high school, it's not a town
Well-
thing, right? Like, so like, but if you are still passionate about that, then,
Right, totally.
I think
And does it
there's,
stay around with PROSAB as an initiative, or does it like leave
Leave the
what's,
nest.
yeah, the nest PROSAB?
there are opportunities to put biking infrastructure in and on some potentially vacant lots in town.
yeah,
And one of the things we came up against is ambiguity in the definitions in the code, in the use group table, between a sports facility and a passive recreation use. And so because there is a degree of ambiguity there, we're not sure if we would have to go through special review or if something for bikes could be done as used by right on a vacant parcel. So that might be something that could help allow for more biking trails. And-
Yeah, this is something that we've been looking
like
at.
on some private
Yeah,
property, right?
yep.
Like, so, which, yeah,
So like if, we've been approached by a property owner who said, hey, you could put the pump track here. We actually had a conversation with town staff. And because we don't know if it would be a sports facility or if it would be passive recreation. And passive recreation does include riding bikes. So he doesn't want to do a special review. It's not worth it to do a special review. It'd be temporary anyway. And so because we don't know, it's just kind of like, well, it sounds like nothing's gonna happen there. If we knew that it would be passive use and it could be used by right, then there'd probably be interest in creating something that very closely resembled a pump track, but probably wouldn't be called a pump track.
How could you get more certainty on the use tape? I mean, it seems like.
They really have to go to the board of trustees
Yeah,
to
that's what
get
I was
a
thinking.
kind of their take on the definition of passive recreation.
So it's kind of just.
So it's not
an
defined in the
interpretation.
code. It's not defined in the code.
It's not what?
It's not defined in the code.
So
So I, as staff, really couldn't guide well because I felt the same way. I was like, tight design that has asphalt, that feels very, very kind of sports recreational. maybe a larger scale design that feels more spread out and a bit more natural. As staff, I would get behind saying that's passive
Totally.
recreation.
Yeah.
But the last thing you want is for somebody to build the whole thing and then come forward and say, why don't they have an SRU?
Right.
You know, so that really has got to get fleshed out, is like, is this, what is passive? What's that passive recreation definition?
Interesting.
So as PROSAB,
If we find a precedent for that, like just in other towns in Colorado who've sort of
well,
put in bike.
Well, I'll
parks,
pause
bike
for a second,
Trails.
just because we're kind of hitting the
Yeah.
limit here of time, is this even a PROSAB issue, like this portion of it?
well, that's what I'm saying, like PROSAB is recreational advising.
So then.
And we
there's-
could actually advise and propose a definition of passive recreation
Okay,
to the BOT.
then that has like some utility to bring forward in the next meeting and make it, to make that potentially possible.
So it'd be proposing an amendment to the code.
A clarification of a definition in. the-
Well, it would be
Yeah.
amended to add a
Sure,
definition.
yeah.
Yeah.
I throw just an idea and slash question is, you know, like, I think the idea of like having it be something that could expand into a bike park makes it a lot more compelling instead of like, it's just a pump track.
I
Yeah.
do too.
And thinking of places where that could, where you have just a little bit more space, the two places to keep in mind. One is the Wingate property,
Yeah.
which you know, definitely has potential because that would be town, it's close, but
It's got a conservation easement on it.
But that's for
But-
parks and recreation.
but could we, I mean, I know there's talk of putting trails on it.
And it's super steep.
Well, but we could maybe find a way to get some flatten out some spots. You don't need a ton of room for a pump track. Like the rest of it could actually want some slope.
And
Let me-
that could
let me-
not be paved, but because that can't be a
Yeah.
sports.
Well, that's what I'm saying, like, it's gotta be.
Is it possible to take that part of the conversation into the next agenda item
Yeah.
partially?
Well, another place to think about is the old slash yard
I'm gonna keep it
Yeah.
by, Cherry Ridge. It's Boulder County,
Oh, yeah.
but there's a big bunch of flat dirt torn up area up there that's out of sight.
That's what you think till the neighbors come.
So here's my,
Rich people.
just because I know we're trying to like not extend time here, what I'm thinking is, and I'll propose this idea is basically just at the next meeting, in between now and then, if you have ideas of sites,
Yeah.
send them to me sooner rather than later. I'll go explore them and come back with a list. And then at the next meeting, we can like also just decide if we have an appetite to continue it at all.
Yeah, no,
Because it's like our goal is Parks and Recreation.
Yeah.
This would seem like an easy thing to go make happen for the community.
Yeah, it's it, didn't
it
it?
did.
It wasn't, doesn't mean we shouldn't still have it, but like, it may be that we move on from it, just like think of other things.
Yeah, and it may be that like, it may be that the PROSAB role can be reimagined in terms of whatever the next steps are, right? So if the next steps end up like, this is land that's not owned by town, then we might be in, it could be the code thing, or it could just be like a,
Not for that. we
like,
think it's
exactly,
great.
like a general support that like, we think this is a great idea, or, you know, like, so I do think like, if it's,
Right.
if you guys are still like into this, I think like if the subcommittee wants to kind of come back with, here's what we'd like to do, and here's the role we think PROSAP could play to support, like, I'm open to that if, seems like,
Yeah,
I think what I'd like to see addressed is, given that this has been voted down on a ballot, I'm not sure how we move forward. Because we've now set a precedent that we're seeking community support for anything
Right.
related to the pump track. And I feel a little odd spending town resources and time on something that the community hasn't shown support. So I'm just saying, I'd like to see that addressed, like.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just, now that we said that, I'm concerned.
I feel like some of the feedback we got of people against the pump track was they always couched it as, I'm not opposed to a pump track, I just
Yeah.
don't want it in Chipeta, so I don't know if like.
I know, but that's because we were saying it was gonna be in Chipeta. If we said it was gonna be at the rink, the neighbors from the rink would come out and be like,
yeah,
we don't want a pump
There's a
track
lot
here.
here.
I mean, there's not neighbors in Chipeta, there's stakeholders for Chipeta.
Yeah.
I mean, I just.
I think
like
it's,
to-
it's a good
Yeah,
point, like, I think,
Thought.
like, I don't personally think we can't spend time on it, because I think the ballot question was like a very specific question, but I think it's a good point, like, I think people say they don't want it in that location, but that's what they say about everything, right? So like, so I do think, but like that, I think we can address that if like the subcommittee comes back with like a location that is on town land. That's one thing. If the best three options are actually all Boulder County or
right.
BLM or whatever, then
Then it's another question of the role of PROSAB.
yeah,
At all.
and the role might just be like, sweet, go for it, you know? Like, so,
Yeah, for sure. That's fine.
is that cool?
Yeah. Yeah, we gotta move on. We can't dwell forever.
Yeah, no, I mean, I really appreciate that, you know, you guys
Yeah.
are still like,
Well, with,
thinking of creative solutions to bring recreation to
So-
our community, so I appreciate that. So,
On that note,
yeah, on that note, yes, thank you, Jesse. Okay, so I didn't quite know how to put this on the agenda, so I put it as like a couple of separate things, but it may just be one thing, so we may actually have more time than I thought. But Nikki and Jesse sent me a request to talk about one specific question for us to sort of like give either a nod or a vote on, and then like a bigger sort of like trail thing. So I'm just gonna turn it over to you guys. So I have like 20 minutes total,
Great.
basically.
I'm gonna try it in 10. We'll see what happens.
Knock it out.
All
Knock
right.
it out.
So, Jesse, this is Jesse Severs, everyone. He is the president of High Performance Earthworks, and he proposed a trails kind of plan that his company would like to assist the town with in various areas of town. So I met with Mr. Severs and Luke Miller, our BOT liaison, up at the rink. We started from there. At the rink, we have a section of trail that actually has an easement, goes right to Caribou Road and dead ends. And then we walked a section of land that is town-owned land that goes to the elementary school emergency access and connects into our other trail system in that Shoshone, Rickery, Navajo School Road area. So it is a connectivity piece. It also connects directly into a BLM trails. And so from there, I'll let Mr. Severs take it from there. Would you like my
yeah,
presentation?
that was great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, so basically I'm circling back to before I ever got involved with PROSAB or the BOT. And I had made an offer to the community, Nikki and Miranda initially, I believe, that I would like to contribute and donate some bike trails to the town, as long as I didn't have to go to meetings and make it happen. And so
2 years later.
And Sam said, Sam came forward and said, well, I'll go to all the meetings. And then lo and behold, you know, the rest is history. So here we are, back to where we started. And I kind of, on Miranda's coaching, took her prompts and put forward a more formalized proposal that included some trails, some segments, some sections, some ideas, you know, and a little write-up to go with it.
You
And
guys all have this, by the way, just, okay, everybody knows.
so it turned out it was too big of a file to email on PDF because I had too many images in there and I don't know how, I just didn't take the time to compress it or something, but so I published it on the web, and so you guys should be able to see it through a web link on Google Docs. And basically, you know, I believe it's A, B, C, D, and E sections, and I just gave them letters for the sake of our discussion. And so however many letters that counts up to be is like 5 possible sections or so. I don't have the resources in my company to build all of those. So, you know, I could build possibly 2 of the smallest ones or 1 of the larger ones. And my idea is to provide a bit of a taste of what it's like in Bentonville all over. You know, the town paid for me and Nikki to go there last year and to get a sense of what that's like. And I would like to use my equipment and build something that is similar. And
Yeah.
the really awesome thing about those trails there is they can be walked on, they can be ridden by beginners, and they can really be enjoyed by advanced riders as well. So it's really cool the way mountain bike trails has really progressed throughout the country and throughout the world over the last, 5 to 10 years. And I would like to bring some of that to Nederland.
So which one, so is it, which one is which of the A through F is the one that was in the specific question, the recommendation to connect trails in the rink area to the Nederland Elementary
I
School?
believe it's the first or second one, yeah.
Okay.
And
I was trying to match that too.
yeah, and I might have messed up that numerology a little bit, but
Yeah, the first map
I
has
think I
two
included
on
Moose
it.
Meadows and the connector between the elementary school and the rink on the same
Yeah,
letter, perhaps.
I think the very first image in that document is the one that.
Yep.
That's got the,
So with the two
Yeah.
yellow arrows?
yeah, 3 arrows, but yeah, it already has that.
And so, yeah, that image there with the yellow arrows is an actual screenshot from our 2005 Trails Master Plan.
Yeah.
So that's where I was,
2005?
yeah,
Yeah.
which is the most current.
That's why it says proposed.
That's just trails.
What's
Oh
interesting
my
is
God, you're right.
The dashed ones are proposed trails, and some of those ones that are dashed exist, right?
Yeah.
Those are now built.
So that's a good thing, yeah.
So we're just
Got it.
finishing things that have already been built. And there's the proposed ice rink. in there, which is nice.
Yeah.
So funny.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah, and that,
So and then the second map is that, sorry, I'm just trying to figure out which one we would be, if we do indeed like go to a vote or like a nod, like what are we actually,
I think it's just that arrow, left arrow, the.
this left
and-
arrow
and
right
it's
here?
actually all it is, because this part already exists. It's just this piece. It's that.
The
piece right
connector to
there.
the rest
From
of
the
it?
ice rink
Yep.
to.
It's pulling the trail off of a private land.
Oh, yeah, okay. I know where that is.
Yeah.
Because we read, that's like,
Yeah,
there's a
and
bunch
that's
of Forest Service trails.
Everybody already rides there.
Exactly.
Scroll down a
And
little
so,
bit.
yeah, linking that
I
trail.
was giving
Talking to like
I was
Arthur,
giving,
the
yeah.
Simba kids yesterday, and
suggestion that.
for them to be able to have that as a way to kind of mix up their, well, because you have all the little kids, they have certain elementary school. And right now, like, their only options are those 2 dirt trails that go through Indian Beach neighborhood. And
Okay.
this would give them like another loop to like.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's way more year-round friendly for them too.
So is that what you want us to?
So I'm asking for PROSAB's permission to, or not a 4, I guess, to, allow Jesse, and his company, along with volunteers from Peak Endurance and Boulder Mountain Alliance, or Mountain Bike Alliance, right?
Yep.
That's right.
Yeah.
To help us construct this section of trail. It would connect rink trail that's already there installed at the rink and take that out through townland, across townland, to connect to the elementary school.
And we can put that in our go code.
Yeah.
too.
No,
No, we could be like, oh, they're building a trail.
yes, and
Make it a-
with no cost to the town
Right.
anticipated.
Yeah, no, I
And
would,
there's already sort of, is this sort of making a social trail like more formal, or is it
Nope.
redirecting?
It's redirecting a trail. The trail that's there currently goes out to Caribou Ridge across
Right,
private, we have like
right.
an easement for that trail there,
Oh, okay.
but it's really private land. And so we'd pull it away from that. I mean, and maybe leave
I
that
don't know that
section
we'd have
there.
to decommission. that.
Yeah, I would leave that section there, but to build this piece of this mountain bike.
Got it. So it's essentially a connector between 2 town trails that already
Yep.
exist.
And between the rink and the elementary school.
Yeah,
Yep.
which is, there's so much need for connections over there.
and your
Yep.
proposal mentions community engagement, so we would vote and then. Like, when does the community engagement happen? I assume this goes to the.
It says a community engagement. I wouldn't take this any further than PROSAB. I just want PROSAB's blessing.
Oh, the proposal says community engagement.
HP, or that, yeah, the Jesse's company would spearhead community engagement.
That sounds like a typo.
That is, and I would think that would involve, so Jesse's proposal, Jesse's proposal is a larger package. This
Oh.
section does not need the
Right.
Oh,
community
I see.
engagement.
I think like, right?
Moose Meadows is what I.
Exactly,
believe
to
is-
Bill's point earlier, if we were doing anything with that area, like that would be a much bigger conversation. This seems like it's more of a smaller connect, I think, I don't know.
Yes.
Like,
I'm just asking because community engagement seems to be a constant sticking point.
Yeah.
for-
Well, I think Luke lives right there in that neighborhood.
Yeah,
We engaged.
Because I am community engagement, so.
Yep, we
Yeah,
engaged with.
good, like,
No, it's good. It's good.
I think it's smart.
That's my
question.
house right there. So I think this is.
But I do think like if like you could talk to a couple of your
Yeah.
neighbors and just be like, hey, we're gonna connect these two, like,
Yeah.
wanna come out and build some trails, like that kind of thing, I
Yep,
think.
we did discuss when we were up there talking to the adjacent landowners that would,
I think that's
you know.
very smart.
Mhm.
So,
There's
Just letting them
really
know.
Three.
Not asking for opinions.
properties that are
Yeah.
in
I think I know where you guys are talking about, so I think.
Is it like
it's-
the one that's right next to your house?
No, it's like, so this is the one that's already there.
Oh.
That's us. So it's this
Oh,
piece
yeah,
right
yeah,
here.
yeah.
So it's just these three places, because this trail's already here.
Sweet.
So do you need us to do like an actual vote, or is it like a not a?
Not a
four?
four, if I could get your blessing.
Yeah,
to
like
go
I think like
forward.
to Alex's point, like, you know, presumably if there's some like, you know, connection with the neighbors ahead of time, this seems like a really wonderful project and relatively small but important.
We say connectivity at every meeting at least once.
Exactly.
Maybe more, or
I feel like
lots
this
more.
couldn't be more directly related to,
Mhm.
What we do here.
two main.
It's just one tiny piece of our connectivity.
does anybody wanna, I guess a not a four is not like a real vote, but does anybody wanna say anything?
It always is nice for the record though, if you can like verbalize
Yeah.
your nod for it, that you're nodding.
No.
Yes.
To nod.
Yeah,
I
Alex
not do it
nod.
right?
Oh, just say your name.
Oh, Alex, no.
Oh, okay.
Alex, no.
I didn't know that.
Like I did it wrong.
Big nuts.
Sam nods.
Cat nods. This is so weird.
Casey nods.
Awesome, awesome, awesome.
We give you the royal nod.
I thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
So go forth and proceed.
Can we-
Yes.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Suggested, name of client at the rank link.
The rank link.
Oh,
That's
that's
cute.
cool.
I like that. Oh, that's cute.
That is pretty
Really
cute.
cute. I mean, I think like to Nikki's
Which
point,
goes with
like
our
we
win-
talk
our
about
win-
connectivity and accessibility.
I like it, yeah.
Like every meeting, so I think this is,
Sounds great.
I think this is lovely.
Thank you, Jesse.
So thank you. Yeah,
Thank
thank you for your volunteer offer.
You're
Like,
welcome.
That's really
I haven't built
incredible.
it yet, but I think the building is gonna be a hell of a lot easier than this last 2 years.
Yeah, and then I do think like there's a lot of
That's
stuff, like there's a lot of stuff in here, so I think as like you want to bring more of it for discussion, we can allot more time and like really dig in,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of really cool stuff in here.
Yeah,
so.
let's get one built first and.
I do still,
Yeah.
I do still hope to have a volunteer day, at some point in time. Jesse's aware of this as well, to get that trail that goes from County Road 130 into Old Town. We need to give that trail some love. It's washed out bad, so.
Is that the super duper steep one that goes down by the llamas, or am I thinking of something?
No, it's the one that like from the, like to going up to the high school.
Yep.
Oh,
That's just basically like a drainage.
It does kind of, it sucks too. I wrote it today.
I think we could probably do something there
fun.
too.
I think if that one, I don't think would take too much time right after, especially if town can get some of our materials there. I think it'd be an
great.
easy volunteer project. I should never say easy. Ugh, jeez.
All right, and then our last item, Nikki. would
I'm
like-
really not prepared for this because I didn't get the quote until like 2 hours before this meeting.
Is
But
it like timely, or do you want
I
to, you're
think-
welcome to.
I think I can smash it in, but if this is gonna go over more than 3 minutes, I gotta go. So, so I will table this until next time if this turns into be a lengthy discussion. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm coming to you. Last year, as you know, we had the surface prep at the tennis court done. So I removed the old surface of the tennis court and pickleball court. And thank you, Jesse. So PROSAB with, we didn't use conservation funds. What did we use for rink?
I think
You did. You did use
No, it was
Was it?
conservation, yeah.
It wasn't, okay.
Yeah.
So, and I warned you.
You'll be
warned you.
back.
I warned you I was coming back. So the next phase of this process is to have it shot blasted. Shot blast
Good for
is
my-
like, kind of like sand blasting, except they use metal balls instead of sand. That last year we paid $17,500 to have the coating removed. This year I'm asking for $15,700 for that shot blast process to be completed. Once that shot blast is done, we are not really looking at painting the tennis courts again. What we're now talking about is staining them so that we wouldn't have to put as much maintenance into those courts. But what I'm asking for right now is the second part of the surface for the tennis court and pickleball, which is $15,700 out of our conservation trust fund.
What's the total in that again?
What?
The total of the entire project.
No, sorry, the trust fund.
I can get that.
Does anybody?
I will need a
You
moment.
had
but I'll
prepped us
get
on
that.
this, that you were gonna need this.
Yep,
Yeah.
I
Does
told you
anybody have
last
any
year, I had
questions?
almost unanimous
Yeah.
PROSAB support for it last year, and I warned you, and here I am.
Nikki, how much could we save down the road if we could cover a roof over the?
Oh, you don't even wanna get into that. That's part of the GoCo.
Yeah, don't talk to me about that yet. Talk to me about that on the
Oh, it's
side.
road.
I would be glad to talk to you about it on the side.
Okay.
Absolutely, because it would be,
16,000?
Oh, so this will almost.
But it
Oh, no,
refreshes
I'm-
every year.
I'm sorry, 31,000.
yeah.
But
it's
it
like-
replenishes
Yeah,
every
I'm sorry,
year.
I was looking at the revenue line.
Okay,
You have 16,000 coming in, you have 31,000 currently sitting there available for use.
and 16 coming in still.
Well, I'm in favor. We already said we'd do that for you, and you said you needed it. And
Yeah.
I trust you.
Do you want to, somebody has to move, like.
I'll
yeah.
make, I'm making a motion.
Yeah, I think we have to actually vote on
Yes.
this, right? Yeah, because it's money.
Cool.
Yep.
So I'll make a motion that we vote to approve the, amount, what's the specific amount?
$15,700.
$15,700, to do the, just say the limits for me.
The shot blast
Shot blast,
of the surface of the tennis pickleball courts.
the shot blasting of the surface of the tennis pickleball courts.
I second.
Wonderful. Alex,
Yes.
Kat, yes. Luke,
Yes.
Sam,
Yes.
Casey.
Yes.
Don't forget to do, yeah.
I will not forget to do appeal. Thank you for reminding me.
Now the consent.
I love that.
Sweet.
And then the voluntary minutes.
Yeah.
Did they
Way to go, PROSAB.
back at all on the
Best board
rink?
ever.
And
What's that?
did you hear back at all from our friends at Rink and Tennis?
I ran into Dallas.
You did?
I got an email from Tim.
Oh, nice.
Oh, you did, and I ran into Dallas.
I figured something else had changed. So we sent the letter to Rink and Tennis saying we wouldn't be working with them anymore, which I think you all were on.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was so funny because I didn't like my signals dropping in and out during that part of the league, and I was like, oh my God, this sounds like so dramatic.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. They put up with some ridiculous non-adult stuff.
Yeah. All right.
Cool.
I think that means, what do I do? Oh, adjournment. That's what it's called. I moved, motion to adjourn. Thank you, lawyer.
I just didn't think you could move to adjourn your.
Oh, can I not?
I don't know.
Oh, no.
Oh,
I
you
I
know,
didn't-
I
I motion to adjourn.
Alex moves to adjourn the meeting,
Yeah,
right?
I did,
Okay,
yeah.
sweet. Thank you. You second that motion? All right, meeting adjourned. Yeah,
Sorry.
I
you
second
didn't
that.
set any of the name tags or anything.
I know how much.
I was showing,